Welcome to It Starts Within, a podcast from Platinum Performance, where we'll dive into the health challenges faced by veterinarians and horse owners alike. Join us for inspiring stories about the latest advancements in equine care, treatments, and comebacks. You'll hear interviews with elite competitors, innovative researchers, and the veterinarians that devote their lives to horses and the humans that love them. At Platinum Performance, we know the power of nutrition starts within. Hello, all. Thank you for being here with me on the podcast, where today we're going to get an up-close look at a star in the world of eventing. And for those of you who are not familiar with the sport of three-day eventing, these human athletes and their mounts are known as the triathletes of the English horse world. So on the same horse, they need to proficiently and very successfully show in the jumping, the dressage, and the cross country. And we're going to learn all about this today. The sport is harrowing, the cross country in particular, to say the least. I mean, it is adrenaline packed and it's done at high speed. And these riders, again, have to show at an elite level in not one, not two, but three disciplines on the same horse. It's wild to me. And these riders are not only amazing athletes, but they're gutsy. And speaking of that, with me today is a lady who has climbed to the top of the sport and stayed there since she was a very young athlete in this realm. She's gritty. She's an incredible writer, and she has a story to tell. She is Caroline Pamukcu. Welcome, Caroline. Thanks for being here with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm beyond excited.
Well, amazing. I am so excited to finally get the chance to sit down with you. Caroline has been a Team Platinum writer for a long time. And she's got all kinds of things going on in her life right now. And I feel like you always have all kinds of things going on in your life. So we're going to dig into that. And Caroline, for those listeners who have known her for a while, Caroline rose to fame under her maiden name, Caroline Martin, correct? And with her number one heart horse, HSH Blake, and we're going to get to know that horse a little bit better as we talk. And together they did some incredible things, and we're going to hear all about that first thing. So first off, Caroline, for our listeners who aren't necessarily very familiar with this sport, and I gave a quick snapshot of it, but can definitely not do it like you can. So give us a little bit of a look-see, 30,000-foot view of what we're talking about in terms of the world of eventing, how these shows work, the different levels of competition, and kind of some of the nuances that set this sport aside, different, above, beside of all the other English disciplines that are out there, because this is very unique.
Yeah, no, and I think you did a really, really, really good job of introducing the sport. It's the best way to put it is it's a triathlon for our horses. And the cool thing is you only have one horse. You can only use one horse for all three phases, which sets us apart from all the other sports. So our horses have to be such incredible athletes to go in and perform a dressage test and be cool and calm and collected and to show off your training and then go the next day and go cross country and gallop for 10 minutes and jump up to 40 obstacles and ditches and banks and, into water, out of water, and have, huge, massive crowds on your galloping lane and showing like the endurance and the bravery of your horse. Then the last day, the third day, to come out and show jump and jump clear and still have enough, it's pretty much showing off your horse is still fit and healthy and sound. And you did your homework at home to be able to jump clear the last day. It's a very cool sport, and you really share a special connection with your horses because it's a dangerous sport too. So we put our heart and soul and we put our lives sometimes in our horses' hands, and so we build a very, very, very strong connection with them. So it's a very special sport.
There's all kinds of questions swirling around in my head hearing you. But I mean, I feel like the sport of eventing, everybody kind of pictures cross country, right? And you picture the British countryside and, the history that goes into this sport. It's a very old sport. And I feel like something that a lot of people don't really realize about three-day eventing and cross country in particular, when you're not close to the sport, is that these aren't rails that fall when a horse hits them. So these are solid obstacles. They're large. They are very challenging. There's often water involved. I mean, there's a lot of really, really gutsy riders and horses, as I mentioned earlier, that are out there. And it's wild. I mean, there are no mistakes that can be made because the consequences are costly.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the cool thing of our sport is it's such a there's so much to do and it's a fun balancing act, like you have to balance prepping your horses for dressage, making sure they're fit enough for the cross country and make sure they're trained enough for the show jumping. So that's a fun thing about it. You're always doing something. And again, it was a cavalry sport, so that's where the bravery comes in. So it's very special. It's very, very fun, very unique. Every day is it's a different day. Every horse, when I train, every horse that day will be doing something different. So it's never boring. There's not hours in the day to perfect the sport.
100%. And I have two favorite things about the sport of eventing. One is the fact that these horses have to be so polished. I mean, literally and figuratively, right? They've got a show in dressage, which is about the most, they're dancing horses, is how us lay people know it, and it's this beautiful. What's on the outside matters, right? And so there are these polished, perfect steeds in this sport. And same with the show jumping. I mean, it's fast, but they got to look good. They got to be polished. They got to be, on their
Yeah.
on track. And then they go out on the cross country field and it's like all bets are off. These horses like are going 9-0. It's gritty. I mean, they've got these two different sides to their personality, which obviously has been trained into them. And so do the riders, right?
I mean, exactly. That's a perfect way to say, like I'd have to say that sums me up as a person, like, yes, I want to be elegant and look good, but then at the same time, I'm covered in mud all day and I'm gritty and I just want to get out there and get stuff done and be aggressive. And that's the other cool thing. And like people couldn't imagine like how calm and collected the horses are in the barn. They're lovely to deal with. All of mine are so honest and easy on the ground and like I can ride them bareback and they're pets. And then it's funny, cross country day comes around, they know it's cross country day and they have a switch and they are so ready to go. Like sometimes getting them to the start box, it's hilarious. Like they're wild, they're ready, they love it. They love the adrenaline as much as we do. So that's the cool thing. It's so fun.
They turn into these fire breathing dragons on cross country day. And you're like, where did you come from? I mean, come on now. But my other favorite part about eventing is I feel like there is a horse and rider connection there that is pretty unrivaled in other equine sports. There's a level of trust. And you kind of alluded to that horse and rider have to have in one another to be not only successful, but to be safe on those courses. Because the horse has to trust the rider that you're not going to put them in a position that's going to hurt them because they have to have blind trust. They don't know what's on the other side of a lot of those obstacles that you're jumping. And the rider has to know when I ask you to go over this, you're not going to fall. You're going to give it your all, that you're sure-footed. You're not going to end up on top of me. And I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. And you really nailed it. Like the trust that Blake and I have in each other, I can't think of any other higher form of trust, like the horse gives me 200% of his soul. And that's like, I can't think of any other relationship the same way. He'd jump through fire if I asked him to.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what makes our sport so different than the rest of the sports out there.
Well, and talk to me a little bit, help us understand the world of showing in the eventing world because, a lot of dressage riders, we know there's different levels and there's Prix St. George and there's Grand Prix and things are a little bit different in the eventing world. You've got a lot of stars around all your shows. So explain to us what those mean and what the different levels are.
So we have our national body in America called USCA, and that starts from beginner novice and that goes up through the level advanced. And then each level has an equivalent to stars up to a certain point. So beginner novice is lowest, then you have novice and then training. And then preliminary is where you get equal FEI equivalents. So that's an international body. So prelim, you have a 2-star level, intermediate, which is the next highest, you have 3-star, and then you have advanced, which is 4-star, and then, which is a little bit confusing, we have the 5-star level, which is the most elite level we have. And that doesn't have a national equivalent because it's such an elite competition that it's just, there's only 6 of them in the world. And so that's just a different caliber of show. And there's only a handful of rider combinations, horse and rider combinations that can do that level. And it's very hard to get there. So that's like our pinnacle of our sport.
Well, and as you rise through the ranks in this sport, there's a huge international component to it too, right?
Yes, huge. So our sport is, it's massive. It's globally. And so in America, I have to say we have quite a few shows, and we have a very busy schedule. Our shows really start January 1st and go through December. There's really no rest in our show circuit. And then in Europe, they equally have just as busy show schedule. As when it gets a little bit cold on the continent, the eventing switches to Portugal, so you can always, or Spain, so you can keep showing in the cold months in Europe. And yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool how bigger and bigger our sport's getting.
Well, I love that. And you're talking to a cowgirl, and I feel like whenever I'm around eventing riders, um, you guys are about as close as it gets to that kind of mentality around your horses. Because one of the things I love about Platinum is we shoot all of our own photography, and you have to be a real Platinum client, you have to be a real Platinum athlete, a vet that really recommends Platinum to keep it authentic. And so I get to go out on all these amazing, shoots to take pretty pictures and video of athletes like you. And we always try and be so respectful of, "Okay, will you consider jumping for us?" And all of our eventing athletes are hilarious all the time where they're like, "Girl, just tell me what you want, we'll do it. I mean, you want me to stand on my head? Like, yeah, we're up for it."
We are a rare breed. I have to say we're a bit of daredevils, but that's that's how we are. That's how we go. So
I love it. It's always an adventure with you guys. So, Caroline, I mean, let's start with what sounds like a basic question, but I mean, why eventing? Like, when did you get hooked on this sport, and why are you so passionate about it? I mean, when did you decide this was gonna be more than a little girl that loves horses, more than a hobby? It was gonna be your profession and your life. And I mean, you could have zigged, you could have zagged, you could have ridden dressage only, you could have been a show jumper, you could have done a lot of different things. But what's your why? I mean, why did you choose this sport as your life's work?
honestly, it was a bit of luck, and I think it was meant to be. So when she turned 40, she had me, and she always really wanted to ride. She did a little bit of riding with friends, but nothing ever serious. And my dad was in the position where he was like, I can actually afford to buy you a horse and get you lessons. So she drug me to the barn every day. And it just so happened to be an eventing barn. And it was just total luck, coincidence, or maybe it was meant to be. So I grew up at the barn with my mom, and because we were always at the barn, her riding, the knee riding, my dad got a bit fed up because he never saw us because we were total barn rats. And so he decided, okay, let's move to the country, and let's get a small farm. And honestly, the rest is history. So my poor dad, he probably regrets everything. He probably regrets saying to my mom, I can get you a horse. He probably should have said, I'll get you a new set of golf clubs or something else. But he got us our farm, that which my husband and I live and base ourselves out of in Pennsylvania. We still operate the farm, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I've always known I wanted to do horses, but I would say maybe when I was 15, I played a lot of sports professionally, or not professionally, but I was very much into a lot of sports growing up. When I was 15, I won, or 16, I won Young Riders. Um, and that taste of winning, but also being on a team, um, it really got me hooked. I was like, okay, I want to dedicate my life to riding on teams and winning medals for my country. I just loved that feeling. And then I stopped going to traditional school and switched to online. And then the rest is history. And now 15 years later, I got to do my first Olympic Games and Pan Ams, and hopefully keep going and bring some more medals home for our country.
I love how you say that so nonchalantly, like, "Oh, when I won Young Riders." For, those of you listening, that's kind of a huge deal. So, kind of a biggie. So quite the start to a very illustrious career. And we'll get into all of that. But yeah, Caroline was the champion there, and it was a very big deal. So talk to me about these horses in particular, and even more specifically about training eventing horses. There are not that many trainers who have to get horses to such a high level in 3 different sports. So each one of these elements, the dressage, the show jumping, and the cross country, I mean, it's really its own animal, literally and figuratively, usually. So how do you approach these horses, and what is your philosophy in terms of getting them to that elite level in three different disciplines that you concurrently show in all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had so many good mentors throughout my life. My biggest mentor was Pippa Funnel. I spent a year based with her over in Europe, and she's a Grand Slam winner. She's won pretty much every big competition in the world. And so I learned a lot from her. And then I have my current mentor, Sharon White. And they definitely have helped me establish my own program to train the horses without overtraining them, which is actually quite hard for our sport because, like I said, you have three disciplines. So you always have to do something, but you don't want to put too many miles on your horse's legs to injure them. So I would say the base of my program is fitness work. I do my fitness work a bit different than most riders. I learned this from Pippa. We do a lot of road trots. So we actually go on, I have a lot of local roads in Pennsylvania that are very quiet. I have unbelievable neighbors, but we go for 2.5 hour trot sets on the roads throughout the countryside, getting our horses fit. So we walk down the hills, trot up the hills, go through the woods. It's actually really, really cool. And it's just a great way to get your horses fit with low impact. And so that would be like the base of my program. And then with that, some days, like I would say about once or twice a week, we'll do a little bit of dressage work. 2 days a week, we would do 2 or 3 days a week, we would do trot sets, and maybe once a week, jump or gallop. Maybe not jump so much. We don't jump a ton with the older horses because they really know their jobs. We just try to keep them healthy and happy. And I have to say, like, doing those trot sets really make them healthy and happy. And every time you get on a horse, you're always training them. So any downward transitions is training them on the roads. Even if going from trot to walk is a transition, walk to trot. So you're always working on them every time you get on them, even handling them on the ground. Uh, you're always training them. So we just have a really good fundamental way of when we're in the barn, we're working, and the horses know that, and they take a lot of pleasure from it, and they're really happy, I have to say.
I love that. Well, you answered my next question because, I recently talked to Haley Kinsel, who's a world champion many times over in barrel racing on the Western side. And her very famous horse sister, I mean, that horse gets no practice runs. And she's like, listen, I mean, she knows her job at this point. And so she is really saving that horse's longevity for those runs that count. And so that was going to be my question is, as these horses move up through the ranks, does their program change a little bit where maybe there is less of the um, more conditioning, less of the actual prep for the show?
Absolutely, and a lot of these horses, I got them as 4 and 5-year-olds, so the relationship is so established at such a young age that when we go and jump them, they know exactly what I'm thinking, and I know what they're thinking. So it's not like we need to practice to make sure we're on the same page. Like, we've known each other for so long, we're kind of always on the same page. We don't have to, when they get to the advanced level, you can work a little bit on technique, but it's pretty much all there, I have to say. Like, as young horses, we'll do more training, but the older they get, it's just kind of maintaining and just keeping them happy. And that's really the best way to put it. If you have a happy horse and a healthy horse, you're gonna do well competition-wise.
100%. And talk to me briefly about the lifespan of an eventing horse's career, because a lot of people, in our world, we're surrounded at Platinum by horse people, right? But people on the outside of this addiction we all have, they don't quite understand how different and nuanced it is with a million different things between disciplines. But one of those key things is age. I mean, in the cutting world, you're seeing horses that would be considered babies in an English setting shown super early. Dressage horses are, peaking at 18, in some cases. So talk to me about eventing horses and what their career lifespan looks like. Not their actual lifespan, but their career.
Yeah. So, we start competing the horses, I would say around 4 years old, end of their 4-year-old year, and it's very easy shows. Like, it's young horse championships, which is a lot of in-hand stuff and just basic walk, trot, and maybe pop a couple jumps just to get them out, and it's just good practice to get them out in an atmosphere and just getting handled more. And then really, the career can last up to 20, but For most of the upper level horses, I would say somewhere from 16 to 18, they really start slowing down. I have to say for me, knock on wood right now, my oldest horse is 12 years old in the barn. But when I get older horses, I usually try to find them like a younger kid or an amateur to show them the ropes and stuff like that. So my Islandwood Captain Jack horse, he was, I think, 14 or 15. And then I sent him to my owner where he's living with my owner and having a great life and just stepping down and enjoying life. For in eventing, the horses would tend to peak kind of between, I'd say 10 to 14, 15. That would be kind of the age where the pinnacle of their career is. But there's tons of professionals that keep them going 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 in eventing. It just really depends on each horse and how their bodies are holding up and, how they're feeling. It's a taxing sport because of the cross country. You really have to be strong and fit. Um, but every horse is different. That's the cool thing about horses. And as we know, it's a cool thing with platinum. There's everything there's stuff you can do to make the career last longer, and every horse is just different.
Right. Longevity is such an amazing thing to see play out in front of our eyes with trainers like you. It's like you guys have the Tom Brady of eventing horses, right? It's like you shouldn't be this successful at this age, but they love it and they're so sound and they're so healthy and it's a super physical sport, but they're able to compete so much longer than they ever were before just because of management and nutrition and amazing veterinary care and conditioning and all the things. But that's definitely, something that has just risen to these new heights in so many disciplines throughout the years. So it's pretty neat to watch, definitely. And I feel like I should have already asked you this, and I also feel like I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. What is your favorite of the 3? Dressage, jumping, cross country?
I think I wouldn't be a venter if I didn't say cross country.
I knew.
No, it's definitely the cross country. It's just such a thrilling phase, and it really just it makes our sport different. It's what I live for.
Yeah. I could have called that one, but I figured I should just, get it out there, get it official. So y'all have a need for speed. So that is definitely the case. If you ask the Western triathletes, so the reined cow horse folks that go down the fence, do the reining, do the cutting, they get the same look in their eyes as you had. It's like, well, duh, down the fence. Yeah, I get to go 9-0 and duel a cow at the end of the fence. It's that. So yes, understood completely. So let's talk about your career real quick, because you have had a wildly impressive number of international wins, domestic wins. I mean, you were in the top 3 in both age groups in the Young Event Horse Championships, and you not only made your Olympic debut, but you were selected as the trailblazer.
Yep.
And to add to that, you finished the season, and we're just talking about right now. We're not talking about all of the different things that you've accomplished thus far, but you finished the season with the most FEI wins for a U.S. athlete and narrowly finished second, I mean, narrowly for the most international wins of any eventing athlete in the entire world. No small feat. So talk to me about these milestones, and they've all been earned throughout your career at such a young age, by the way. And you've been able to stay so competitive and at the top for so long, and you're still so young. So talk to me about your career thus far, from this global view of all these things you've accomplished, and this year being a huge one in 2024.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so far, knock on wood, I've had a really good career, but there's so much left to be done. The biggest thing is I had a really, really good young rider career. My parents fully supported me when I was a young rider, and which, tremendously helped. And then I got to the age about 20 where I had to either, figure out a business or, step away from horses and go to college and find a different path. And that was quite a hard jump for me to go from young rider to professional. But I really, again, just kind of I got lucky. I stopped competing at the upper levels for a few years really intensely and focused on my business and started a really big sales business. I met some amazing connections, amazing people. Kelly Hutchison is one of my business partners, as well as Emil Spidone and Paul Hendricks, and met them and started sourcing horses for people, other athletes. And then I started meeting owners, and really past 5, or I guess really say past 10 years, really been able to turn it around and get a great group of owners and supporters. And I got an incredible team of horses and been able to start checking off some very cool wins and just keep improving and doing my best and keep balancing my sales business, but also, most importantly to me that I want to be, number one rider in the world. So just keep trying to plug away at that.
No big deal. I mean, I'm glad you got goals. Well, I love what I love most about your story is you are so self-made, and that's not to say that you don't have an amazing support system, business partners, mentors, all the things. But you also had to take the reins on your career, again, no pun intended, but and figure it out because this is not a cheap business. And this is, I mean, traveling all over the world with an entire string of horses is kind of a big deal. So, I mean, I really admire how you have been able to build this business, this reputation, not only as a competitive athlete and a show person, but in the sale realm too, and sourcing all these horses for so many different levels of riders. Is a special thing. So you've got it all going on between sourcing horses, training horses, showing horses, all the things. And you know what it just made me think of? It has to be real cool for your mom to sit back as a passionate horse person. I'm sure she doesn't sit back. I'm sure, like it's a very involved thing, but that has to be really neat to see you doing what you do.
It's really cool, and, like, I'm very, very, very close to my parents, and then my husband, Dennis, is even you couldn't even imagine how supportive he is about everything, and so I've got a very, very amazing village of people that surround me and really back me, and we're very, very, very close, like, whether it be the people that work for me, my owners, my family, we're very, very, very close, and so I'm really, really lucky to have this group of people, and it's cool. They've been here from since day one. My vets, my farriers, or you wouldn't imagine how close we are. So it's really cool. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that. You have a very strong village. That's how it's supposed to be. I love that. So, the integral part of that village, aside from the team and the people, is obviously it all comes back to the horses, right? And you clearly love the sport and the energy and the adrenaline and the challenge and the competition. But anyone who knows Caroline Martin Pamukcu knows you love the horses, and particularly, you have kind of a soft spot for young horses, which not every rider does. Not everyone has a passion for the young and the green. So, tell me first about HSH Blake and the road you two have traveled together. Um, and then I feel like I would love to hear a little bit more about the young horses too, but I want to set this up because I don't think you're going to brag on yourself adequately. So let me just do it for you real quick. Blake is a big deal, together with Caroline. So, and correct me if any of these stats are wrong, but I did a little digging. So 7 international wins with you as his jockey, correct?
Sounds about right. I have no idea, to be honest.
You won 7 international wins. Write that down. Big deal. You two earned a team silver medal and individual gold in your first championship representing the U.S. eventing team at the 2023 Pan American Games in Santiago, Chile. How was Chile?
Oh, that was a very cool experience. Yeah, it was very cool. It was my first time properly riding for Team USA with, Pan Ams are like in a mini Olympics. And that was very fun. That was a very cool experience.
Very cool. I've actually spent quite a bit of time in Santiago, and it's an amazing place. So, and in 2024, to add to the list, you together finished inside the top 5 in all of your FEI starts and finished in second in your first 4-star of the year before taking 5th in the extremely competitive 4-star at the Kentucky 3-day event, which is, kind of the cornerstone of the American 3-day eventing competitions. And then you also took your first 4-star win at Tryon before being selected to, again, no big deal, the U.S. Olympic eventing team for Paris in 2024. And currently, Blake is the highest rated 8-year-old on record for the USA and second in the world.
Yeah, well, he's actually this year he's 10 years old and he's actually rated number 1 10-year-old in the world.
Okay, so he was at an 8-year-old highest rated. Now he's number 1 10-year-old in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Blake's done a few things. So talk to me about this horse because I feel like everyone has a lot of special horses in their life, but they've got the one, right? And Blake is the one. So talk to me about Blake.
Yeah, no, he's very special. So my business partner, Kelly Hutchison, she sourced him as a 5-year-old in Ireland. We knew about him his whole career. As a 4-year-old, she tried to buy him for me. Then as 5-year-old year, the lady was ready to sell him. Amazing lady. She was adult amateur and she got him as a foal and raised him in her backyard. And it was very, he was just always a special horse from a young age. So I took the reins over in his 5-year-old year. And yeah, he won the young event horse championship as a 5-year-old. 6-year-old year, he won the 2-star national champion title. 7-year-old year, we went to the world championships in France and we're top 10 there. And then as an 8-year-old, he won Pan Am's. And then as a 9-year-old, we went to the Olympics. So it was, one big milestone after another, another, which is really cool. And, it's rare. It's rare to have a horse that helps you achieve so many goals every year. So he's very, very, very special to me.
Yeah, at least you guys are consistent. I mean, I don't know what you're going to come up with next, but geez. So Blake is clearly, your heart horse. Anybody who knows your story knows that. But talk to me a little bit about those young ones. Like why is that you are so connected to sourcing and training young horses? Why do you connect with them so well? Because like I said, not every rider loves the making of the horse aspect to it. Some love the competition, right? They don't want to make the horse. So talk to me about why you have multiple personalities, Caroline. Talk to me about why.
No, it's a great question. So again, it's a little bit luck or maybe it was meant to be, but that's just been my business model. Kelly and we met in Ireland. I bought a few horses from her and I really needed another business partner to start sourcing horses. And her family business are either buying or breeding young horses and then producing them to the 4 and 5-year-old age and then sell them at that age. And that's kind of where I was able to slot in with her family is take the reins over as a 4 and 5-year-old, bring them to America, and then start producing them to sell or keep producing them for my career. So originally Blake and some of my young horses, they came over as sale horses. And then for whatever reason, Blake wasn't able to sell. A lot of people just passed on him because they didn't like him or whatever. Bit silly to think about it. And so I was able to keep some of these horses and just keep producing. And that was just kind of the niche I found in my life. I've always loved producing young horses. I always just taken pride because just simple achievements as picking up the lead correctly that day or just being able to teach them something new. I love that. I love the satisfaction of just being able to teach them and then the reward of them understanding it and then them trusting you. And that's what I take pride in. I was just luck that I met Kelly and she needed a business partner and both the same age. And then it just worked for us. And we just kept growing and growing. And then I've been able to find owners that believe, getting them as young horses, producing them, spending that time and seeing them grow. And that's just, I found a good group of people that believe in the same philosophy as I do. And, young horses, it's hard because it's not every horse when they get to a certain age, not every horse is made to be, an elite athlete and go 5-star. But that's totally okay. Then we're able to resell them, find them homes that make them happy, either in the eventing world or hunter jumper world or even dressage world. So that's the cool thing about my life and my sport and my business is that we can, find a home for each horse. If they don't want to be a top horse, we can find them a horse and match them with the perfect person.
Love that because it's fulfilling and amazing and newsworthy to win these big shows and to place in these big shows and to go to the Olympics and to go to the Pan Ams and all the things, right? But there's writers, I mean, eventing is prolific. There's so many eventing writers all around the country and the world, obviously. But they all need horses, and they need horses that are trained and fit to their level. And I think that's awesome to be able to see you make these young horses, whether it be into superstars that we all see, covered in the big lights, or these horses that go on to be loved and shown at slightly lower levels by amateur riders that are passionate and, so involved in the sport. This is their escape. This is their joy. This is their weekend, and they need them too. So I think that's great that there's that breadth.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I take as much pleasure winning a 4 and 5-year-old championship, sometimes as winning a 4-star long or going 5-star. That's I love bonding with the horse, and then I love being able to take a young horse and showcase them and show the world, how special they are. Um, it's kinda funny, it's kinda silly, like, I'm very competitive, but then I love my horses so much that I think they're the best. I think all of them are the best. So when they win, again, it's just the same type of pride as winning a small show as winning a big show. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like you're almost competing against yourself when you're raising young horses, where you've got these challenges and these milestones that you want to meet. And it's like it's a challenge to that trainer or that rider to get it done, not force it, get it done on their time, train them right, and it's just all these daily little milestones, like you were saying, like they caught the right lead today, like yay, and I mean it's still a competition, but it's on a different level in a different way.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And then it's beyond special. Like, I had Blake for so many years now, and we've done everything together, and we spend nearly every single day together. So you just form such a special partnership, and then you know all their ticks and quirks, and they know all of your ticks and quirks, and you become very attached, like it's cool. It's very fun.
You get a few men in your life. One of them's just really big and hairy, and
Exactly.
love it. Well, you've had a lot of amazing horses. Blake just, the standout, right? So that is, you don't mention Caroline Pamukcu's name without mentioning Blake. So I love that we got a little bit of insight into that horse and how special he is. And one thing about you, Caroline, is we've established that you love your horses, and I feel like all of the best riders do, and all these writers that love their career and all that, but the element of that pure, raw love of the horse. And you're known for taking amazing care of your horses. And, as a horse person, whether you ride cutting horses or barrel horses, or you show dressage, or you ride in 3-day eventing, the two things that all of these successful riders and good horsemen and good horsewomen have in common are incredible veterinarians and excellent management, which includes our world, which is nutrition. So, can you talk to me about both? You said you've got these amazing veterinarians and farriers and these people that have been so close to you for so long. Talk to me about that element and how much it really matters, and then why that management and that consistency and nutrition, is so important to you, because it's all these things that come together, all these quote unquote little steps that come together to produce these huge wins.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, that is e equally as important as the horsepower that you have is making sure that, again, like I talked about before, my village is just as strong as the horsepower that I have, and it's a full-time job, from all of us. So, I've got a really, really, really great group of people that look after the horses and look after me. So my main vet is Johnny Furlong, his dad, Brendan Furlong. Been with them my whole life and my whole career. And Johnny, he lives 5 minutes away from me. Him and his wife live 5 minutes away from me in Ocala, Florida. And then they live about 30 minutes away from me in Pennsylvania. And they were in my wedding, and we're very close. We're very attached. And my farrier, Beck Ratley, her and her husband, same thing. They live 5 minutes away from me in Florida, and they live 2 hours away from me in Pennsylvania. So we're very all intertwined, and we were at her wedding. And so because we spend nearly every day together taking care of the horses, we've all become such good friends. And I'm really lucky that, they're the core of my village. And so a few years ago, Brendan sat me down. I was a kid, and he was like, "We need to get your, nutrition on track. This is what we're going to do. We're going to call Platinum." And then I started using Platinum. And I have to say, since that day, my career kind of turned around, and I've been able to manage my horses, knock on wood, much better. And with the help of Johnny and Beck, and we've all kind of, it's one of those things that, we all together as a team sit down. We actually 2 days ago sat down with Johnny, looked at all the horses, took a look at all the supplements, talked to Beck, and she's going to check all their feet in a few days when the horses get to Florida. And we kind of start at the baseline, and we say, okay, this is what we're going to do with the horses. This is what they need. This is what supplements they need. This is the grain they need. and we started a plan, and all three of us kind of talk together and we go from there. And so it's very much like it's not my program, it's our program. They're just as important or more important than I am. I keep saying to them, I'm just the jockey. They have to do all the hard work. So
Team effort. I love that. That's how it should be, right? And I love when veterinarians and farriers have a close relationship. I feel like it makes it that much stronger for the benefit of the horse than the rider. And you've got a united front behind you, which is amazing. And BW Furlong is just a long established, very incredible practice, on the East Coast, which is really cool. I love that you've got such a history with all of them and that you guys are all practically related now. So that's great.
we're all
Florida.
say.
Well, good. I love to hear it. So, I feel like when you get to your level, part of success is consistency. And consistency is probably one of the hardest things to achieve when you've got horses flying internationally, when you're traveling to shows, when a home environment changes to a show environment. So, talk to me a little bit about that consistency and how you manage that, because for the sheer number of horses that you deal with, I mean, it sounds like quite the project unless you really have your system down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, so we would on average say we have about 50 horses in the barn at any time. And a majority of them are sale horses that come over from Europe. And so it's a very big jump from going from Europe, what they eat over there, to coming to America, and the transition from going from a cold Irish winter to sunny Florida. That increase of temperature, different type of hay, different type of soil, it's hard on the horses' systems. And so, yes, I've established a program, and I am very strict about my program. Like, the horses eat Triple Crown grain, and then they have their platinum supplements. And everyone kind of starts, like, when they get introduced to the program, we start on a basic regimen and then they stick to it. And then we can adapt and change things depending on what the horses need. And that's where sometimes I'll give you guys a call and you come out to my farm and you give me, I usually probably 2 or 3 times a year, Platinum comes out and takes a look at my horses and say, we kind of adjust some of the things. I'll tell you guys about my concerns. And same with Johnny. We'll talk about, like, he'll take a look at a horse and be like, you know what, their skin is not looking great. So let's just throw them on the skin and allergy, especially when they get to Florida. My farrier might be like, you know what, this horse's feet are getting a little crumbly being in Florida because of the total difference, the change of climate. So I'll just throw them on some hoof support, and that's the great thing about my team and about you guys, is that we can just keep the horses consistent. And then when I go to Europe, the big thing is we send over with our horses with their grain and their supplements. And that is a massive thing, because before I've heard, stories of top horses going over and tying up or colicking because Europe is, the grain and supplements are so different. And it's a total body shock for the horses. I've been, knock on wood, very lucky with the Pan Ams, making Blake go to Chile. Blake's been to Poland. I've been to, flown the horses all over the world, and knock on wood, been able to compete my best because of my strict program and because of the products that I feed. And so we keep everything the same for if they're competing in Europe, they're competing in South America, or Central America, and in the Americas. So yeah.
I love that, and, being able to manage that and achieve that well, is a big deal, and definitely, in my opinion, a competitive advantage for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, and you mentioned Europe, so there was something kinda big that happened this year in Europe. So, let's talk Paris. That's wild. I mean, first of all, sounds like a cliche question, but really, could you ever have imagined? I mean, was that the plan all the way along? Was it like a Caroline Martin Pamukcu goal where you were a little girl and you're like, "Dang it, I'm gonna make the Olympics," so you weren't at all blown away by that? Or was it like there had to have been a moment where you took a step back and went, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm wearing my country's flag, and it's France, like, this is a pinnacle. This is pretty cool."
I know it does sound crazy. I have to say, when I was a kid, I knew I was going to go to the Olympics. I don't know why, and I probably could have never happened, and I would still feel I'm going to do it one day. But I just got really lucky that I actually did make it there. But I would say my husband and my parents and I, we didn't think it was a real goal until after I won the Pan Ams. And I remember talking to some of the team, like the team coaches and stuff like that after the Pan Ams, and I was like, my goal, my husband and I's goal was having a family. In 2024, we were, planning on having a family and started thinking about that sort of thing. And so, but then the team was like, you need to hold off a little bit longer, Caroline, because you guys did do Blake's relatively young. He was the youngest horse at the Olympics, and I was one of the youngest riders. And they told me it's like, it's not a out of reach goal, and if you complete the goals and get the results that we expect from you in the spring, um, you can absolutely have a shot at the Olympics. And again, my husband and I were like, "Ah, it's probably not gonna happen, but let's really buckle down, let's focus, and let's try to get there." And then it happened, which is cool. It's like with the young horses, I'm a very much goal-oriented person, so I always give myself like, "Okay, do this well, do this well, do this well." And then that just kinda happened in the spring with Blake. We kinda checked off everything off the list, and then I got the phone call, and I was actually in Ireland, with Kelly Hutchison and her family, or my second family, and I'm sitting at the dinner table. We're having a nice Irish stew that her mom made, and I got the phone call, and then I just started sitting there sobbing, and then it was great. It was a very special, dinner.
Nice Irish stew, maybe mixed with some champagne after that, I don't know. Oh, it is so neat, and, tell me about the setting, where you were showing in France, kind of the experience of being, you know, in Europe representing your country. That's huge.
Yeah, I love representing my country. That's honestly what I live for. Like, that's what drives me out of bed every day. Yeah, Versailles was unbelievable. It's just getting there and seeing the venue. It was special. And I don't think there'll ever be Olympics as special as that. I hate to say it, but like, Versailles is a palace for horses. Like, that's what it really was made for. And the grounds were incredible. Everything was just perfect. Like, it'll stay with me till the day I die. And being able to do it with Blake and having my team there, and like, I had Johnny and his wife were there, my farrier was there, like, my core people were there, and so just and Kelly was there, so just being able to have that, it was amazing. And the atmosphere is incredible. Like, the French crowd were, holy moly, they were so loud and supportive, and it was very cool. I just wanna keep doing more and more teams. Like, I love it, and Santiago was special to me too during the Pan Ams. Just all these major team competitions. There is nothing cooler in the world to do that and then do it with the people and the animals you love.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sums it up pretty well, and your village was there with you, and Versailles. Caroline, I feel like you got the most aesthetically pleasing Olympics that there is probably ever going to be, so it doesn't get much prettier than you were.
No, it's just insane. Like, I still feel like it's a little bit of a dream, but it's reality is slowly hitting. But yeah, it was special, very special.
I love that. Well, what an experience for you. A well-earned experience, 100%. So, you mentioned your village that was there with you in Paris, and you've alluded to them kind of throughout our conversation, but talk to me about that team a little bit. We've definitely met the doctors Furlong, and Beck, and know about your veterinarians and your farrier, but talk to me about the people, aside from them and your business partners, the team that gets you where you need to go, your constant village, your daily village.
I've got a great group of people that work and take care of the horses. So Chloe T and my head groom, she's been with me for a few years now, and she's Blake's other mother. And so she really, really she loves Blake and he adores her. And then again, my husband, like, he goes everywhere with me. The poor guy, he is non-horsey, and he probably forgets marrying a horse person, but he is always there for me every step of the way. And Mason, who's been my head rider for years, and I've had working students at Matt has worked for me for years, and I've got a really, really close group of people. Dalton and Crystal, who are my property managers, like, they've been with me for the past 10 years, and, like, and they live on the farm. Everyone lives on the farm. We do Christmas together. We do Thanksgiving together. We do all the highs, all the lows together. Like, we're very, very, very intertwined. Like, it's probably a bit abnormal, but I think it's very important, like we all win together and we all lose together. And we're there for, we have everyone's back. So it's cool. It's a very unique program, but I'm very proud of it.
Abnormal in the best of ways, Caroline. I mean, I think most people would give their right arm for that closeness and that type of a village that, you've built and is a testament to who you are and your parents are and your business partners and the whole thing. So good people find good people. And I think that's amazing. And it's what's so rewarding about it and fun about it. And probably adds a sense of security too, because you know that no matter what, you might trip, but you're not going to fall because you've got all these people that are there to hold you up, which is pretty neat. Being the person out front, like being the name, it's pretty great to have that safety net and that security and that familiarity in back of you. So I love that. I think that's really special. And we talked about 2023, huge in Chile, moving on to Paris in 2024 and all the other things that you accomplished. Those were big, but you and Dennis have an even bigger 2025 coming at you like anytime now. You're going to be parents like any minute. So talk to me about that adventure and how, and then one thing that is an obvious question of how baby girl's name came to be. I'm pretty sure I know, but yeah, talk to me about that because you guys are expecting your daughter in a hot minute. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations.
Literally, thank you. I'm 38 weeks pregnant, so any day now, and doctors think literally could be in an hour, could be within the next 10 days. So she'll be here soon. And funny enough, because I'm a nerd, I named her after Blake. So her name is Blake. And so yeah, we're really looking forward to it and excited for this next journey. So and kind of, I've got such a great support team. So, it's scary at the same time, but I've got such a great group of people that are surrounding me and supporting me. I think hopefully it'll be a really good transition to go from just Dennis and I to now having a partner here with us, and we'll keep reaching our goals with her with us.
I feel like you guys are not going to be hurting for childcare with all the people. Pretty sure that they're just going to be fighting each other to see, like, there's going to be a lot of elbow throwing. I don't know. It could get ugly inside Caroline Pamukcu eventing. It could.
I'm really lucky. His parents are super supportive. His mom's going to come live with us for the first bit. My parents bought a house right next to my farm in Ocala. So we've got a lot of help. And Chloe's mom, my head groom's mom's going to come over and help nanny too. So we have an insane group of people that are going to come and help us navigate this new chapter of our life. So we're really, really excited. I just wish you'd be here already. I'm ready.
Anticipation is a thing, right? It's kind of cruel. So she'll be here soon enough for sure. And it's just the most amazing thing. So that's really exciting. And if anybody ever questions if Caroline Pamukcu loves her horses, I mean, she's naming her kid after Blake. So
No, it's pretty cheesy, I know, but it's just, like she has a pretty high standard to follow, so and I love him so much, it's just and Dennis and I thought it was perfect. So yeah.
it is perfect. Every time you look at her, you're going to smile for so many reasons, right? I mean, that's pretty great. And I also love how your dad was not a horse person and fell into this world where your mom and you were addicts from the get-go. And then Dennis is not a horse person and has fallen into this world. And I'm pretty sure that he has the third generation headed at him. But don't they say that if little girls are into horses, they have no time to get into trouble with boys and no money to do that either. So it's good.
Fingers crossed we can keep her on the straight and narrow, but so far I think she's gonna be a wild child.
Well, hey, there's genetics there, girl. So there you go. I love it. So Caroline, what's ahead? Obviously, baby Blake is the star of the show in 2025, but I love how you don't slow down whatsoever. So what are the goals ahead of you still? Because you have accomplished a tremendous amount in a young career. And your career has spanned so long. It's because you started when you were so young. So what's next for you?
Yeah, pretty much poor baby Blake's gotta get a passport as soon as she's born, but the big goals is so we have the World Games in 2026, so I would say my big goal in the spring would be going to Aachen, and just getting, I've been to Aachen before, I've ran around there double clear, so just going back and just getting used to the venue and just preparing for the WEGs for the following year, so that would be the focus of the spring. And then the fall, I've got about 15 horses of my own to compete this year. So, and that goes from 4-year-olds to my oldest, that's 12. So just every horse has a goal and a target. I'm gonna give horse Blake an easier season because he's done so much. He's been on like 10 different planes in the past 3 years. But I hope to take him to Auckland, let him run around there, just get a taste of the venue, and then give him an easier summer and fall and kind of focus on some of the next generations and, hopefully produce the next Blake. I think I've got a few other ones that are just as equally as talented and they deserve the time to shine. So yeah, we're gonna hit the ground running as soon as human Blake's out.
I have no doubt that you've got, some future superstars that you're bringing through the ranks, and I love that you now have Horse Blake and Human Blake. You're
And they're both princesses.
right, yeah, exactly. I can see that for sure. Oh my gosh, Caroline, what a pleasure to talk to you about all this stuff. I loved getting a little bit of a glimpse into your world. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The phenom that is Caroline Pamukcu, and kind of about as inside of a look as you can get into 3-day eventing. So thank you very much, my friend, for being with me here. And I can't tell you, friendship and loyalty, that's a big deal. And you have been a member of the Platinum family for so long and a Platinum rider for so many years. And it's just really cool for us to be able to watch your career reach these just amazing heights, and to know the person behind that and the horses behind that. And it was just a pleasure to be able to share that with our audience today. And we wish you and Dennis, and your whole tribe, because I think everybody has a little ownership over little Miss Blake, even before she gets here. We wish you guys all the happiness in the world with her. And just thank you for spending the time with me today.
Oh, thank you guys. And I can't thank you guys all enough for being part of my career for so long. Like I have to say it was very scary when I had those 2 horses go into atrial fib. And I remember that day like yesterday, and I thought it was the end of my career. And then started using Platinum, and you guys been there for every single goal. So I have to say, you guys are one of the big reasons why I had to turn around my career. So it's been fun.
Those are kind words and very meaningful words coming from you. And I also want to thank everybody that joined us today for an inside look at Caroline Martin Pamukcu, and her horses, the ever famous Blake, and all the others that could one day, have their star rise as high as his. So thank you for being with me and learning alongside me about 3-day eventing and Caroline's world and her story. And I hope you join me on the next podcast. But until then, I'm Jessie Bengoa. Take care.